So welcome to another episode of the Swing and Miss podcast with your host, Winslow. That's, I don't have to say that's me, obviously. And then I'm with my good friend, Harry Ransom, also known as Ransom. The first Ransom, not like DJ Ransom. But we're not talking about him this episode. Good intro.
The AIM username Ransom.
AIM, which will definitely could be a topic later on if I remember to get to that. Yeah, for sure. But how you been?
Doing well. The weather's getting better. It's spring in Boston. I'm in Boston, so that's the first thing. I'm from the Washington D.C. area, but I've been up in Boston just over 2 years.
Nice. Yeah. So, man, I have that same feeling. I went out today and it's like 80 and like almost 100% like humidity and mosquitoes are out and like I don't miss this for some reason.
Pollen.
Yeah, all that. Like I'm glad I don't have those like that kind of allergies, but yeah, it's a nice change. And then things are like sort of opening back up to where you don't have to be inside all the time or just like distance. Not that I wanted to get COVID this early, but it's a thing. So
yeah. It is a thing.
Yeah.
And that's so the other thing. So where I work, it's a school of public health, and that's like topic number one.
Yeah.
Like at work, like I do IT support, and it's just all the professors and stuff. It's public health. Like you're hearing so much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like family members will see like, oh, someone from your school is in the news today. I was like, yeah, that they're gonna be local, national, they're all over it.
Yeah, I had that like same everyday kind of thing when I was before I like moved last year and I was still doing like school and stuff. I was a janitor. I think we talked about that before, and it's just like every day this is how you have to clean. Make sure you clean this every 15 minutes and then do everything else. And this professor is worried about this or this thing. So can you go in there and I know you were just in there, but can you do it one more time?
Wait, so when the pandemic started, were you still at your old school, like on campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like, cause they let everyone else go and like basically stay in the dorms. But I was, essential worker, basically being the janitor, but no one was in the room, so I was kind of cleaning a space that I had just cleaned the day before. So what would really end up happening, I would just kind of sit in a room and be on Discord, and that's why I was always talking during work hours.
Did you record like squeaks or anything like that? Just do field recordings of?
Yeah, because it was in like the engineering building where just all like machinery and stuff, and it's just loud. And I would just have like my Zoom recorder in my backpack and then have like the little push cart you have, like custodians have. And I would just have that like next to like my iPad and like, oh, there's this thing. And then it's like right next to the music building. So I can just pop into like the piano room and like record who's ever playing without them knowing, by the way. Or just like me hitting the piano, then like get back to work on the radio and then sample that radio thing. Pretty sure I have some recordings like that.
My job prior, like I worked at University of Maryland for 10 years before moving up here, and I worked in classroom technology. So I was part of the AV.
Yeah.
So like 300 and some classrooms on campus, and you'd get a report that like a projector bulb burned out or whatever, and run off between classes to change it. We had walkie-talkies, and it was just like a badge to walk into anywhere.
Yeah.
We did have we had keys to most places, but with the walkie-talkie, you just like walk into a place and no one would say anything. I actually think I made someone nervous, like paranoid nervous, in the student union, because I went in to pick up lunch one day, and this guy was acting very sketchy when he saw the radio, and I was like, I'm not with public safety. I'm just picking up lunch and going back to the AV cave. But I've got a lot of those like recordings of the clicks and like the static and stuff. So
yeah, we talk about anything, but not to keep on this, but that was like one of like the perks of like that job was just having keys to almost anywhere. And just walking around like, whoa, what's behind this door? Because it wasn't like an office or anything. It was just like some weird tunnel that wasn't on like the building map that's in front of every entrance, and I just end up walking through there and finding like a desk from the '70s or something just in a corner or just
I
hiding.
uh I would for years I've always been like that would be a cool space for a party. That'd be
Mhm.
a fun spot for a rave. I wonder if we could fit 100 people in here. And you'd get into spaces like that on campus.
Yeah.
Like the architecture building at Maryland, there's a lecture hall. I think it's like a 300 person lecture hall,
Mm.
and it's got a big frosted glass screen that
Okay.
the projectors are behind it, and they just shoot out to the screen. But that whole projection room, it's like this flat black and just that frosted glass, and I was just like, this would be awesome to just you know as just in my head, I'm like, this looks like a cool spot for a party.
Man, I know that exact feeling of just being in like these weird industrial parts of like buildings, especially just like on a college campus that's old. Like you'll just find like these pockets. Like there's an at like the library, there's like this whole underground like first and second floor of just warehouse stuff. But
Hmm.
it looked like the library that was on like above ground. It was just that much space underground. Like you can just do so much stuff down here.
Like archives.
Yeah.
um that's so I don't want to say grew up, but like when I was an undergrad in college,
Mm,
like my late teens, early 20s is when I got into all this
yeah.
and going to raves. And the DC and Baltimore rave scene was like huge in
Mm,
the late night, like mid to late night, actually from the early to late 90s. And one of the biggest promoters in the area, they started doing daytime events at the DC Armory in
okay.
Washington, DC. And it's like US National Guard. It's where growing up as a kid, it's where you'd go to see like the circus and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
And 96, they had their first rave there. I saw
Jeez.
Chemistry and Storm.
See, and that's exactly why I was like really looking forward to talking to you because you have just like all these stories of like when I was in diapers basically. And like there's so much stuff that happened like in that area, like DC and around there, like over the years, especially just with like dance music in general, but definitely drum and bass. And
Mhm.
like what was that like then in like the heyday when Chemistry and Storm and then Goldie and what LTJ Bookham's probably around. Yeah,
Yep.
and all those legendary
I,
people.
so the first rave I ever went to is like December of 95. It was like my freshman year of college. And 96, definitely saw Chemistry and Storm. Definitely saw LTJ Bookham.
Mm,
I don't even know how many times I saw DJ Trace that year because he played that area a lot.
mm,
And driving to Philadelphia was like a 2.5 hour drive. So if there was a big event in Philadelphia, it wasn't like a second thought to just buy
yeah.
tickets and go up. I don't know when I first saw Goldie. I may have seen him live the first time I saw him because I know I saw him play at the Black Cat in DC with his band. Like, was it Diane Charlemagne, the vocalist?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
she was on tour with him, and I can't remember if that was in 96 or 97.
Man,
But
that's yeah, that's just crazy to think about because like now the more that I start to like get into things, I've always been like on the production side, I guess. And because like how things are now, it's like you can't go to any kind of parties until you're 21. By the time I was 21, I was in like a school in the middle of Missouri where I just left from. It's like there's country music there. There's no any kind of rave electronic music. So it's like I missed so much, I guess. And there's all like this history and like stories and people are like, don't you know this? And like you don't realize I'm only in my 20s right now. It was like this
and
whole era.
you've still got time for stories. Like you're gonna I'm sure I know that I've said this to you like months ago, but like,
Yeah.
and I don't know who else on the server. it's there's time. Like
Mm,
stuff is gonna. You have no idea what's gonna happen in the next
no.
3 years. Like I don't know. You're gonna have your own boat party at Outlook or something.
Man,
Like who knows? Like
yeah, I mean, I'll take anything right now, especially with like just wanting to gig in general. But yeah, I was going to ask, so around like that time when you were going to these raves, like when they were starting, like around 95, 96, you said you were a freshman in college. Were you DJing or producing it at all then? Or are you just like, I like this music?
it started with I like this music.
Oh,
I the other talk I had done. I grew up watching a lot of MTV
okay, yeah.
when it was mostly music videos, and they would have weekly specialty shows, and I would almost religiously watch Yo MTV Raps
Mm,
and 120 Minutes, and just the range of music that covered was huge. And 120 Minutes got me into like a lot of alternative and indie and a lot of Britpop.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So I like stuff like Blur and Bjork and whatnot. And Bjork, I had like a crush on.
Yeah.
Uh, I would read Spin and Rolling Stone a lot, and there was an article about her boyfriend releasing an album,
Mm,
and it was like, oh, this sounds cool. It's called Drum and Bass, and I was into car audio stuff. Like, we'd
okay,
build
definitely,
basement.
yeah. Yeah.
I was like, bass. I like bass. DJ Magic Mike and 95 South. That stuff's got bass. Drum and bass has got to be like just like that. And so I bought Goldie's Timeless, the summer of '95, and there was a compilation called Counterforce. It turned out it had stuff by Goldie and Lemon D
Mm,
and DJ Crystal on this compilation. So those are the first two things I ever bought drum and bass wise. But I had already been buying CDs and cassette tapes for like 4 or 5 years at that point. Like I probably had some. Have you ever seen the 140 BPM compilations?
uh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
You look it up on Discogs, whatever. It looks like a speed limit sign, and it's got like a whole bunch of happy faces on it.
Mm,
So it just screams like 93, 94 rave.
mm.
Um, I remember getting some of those compilations before knowing what dance music stuff was, and then a couple years later, you look at them again, you're like, oh wait, I know what that is, and I know what that is, and I know who that is, and I've seen that person DJ, and it's just like it all starts to make sense.
Okay, yeah, I have, man. That's just like, even though with the time difference, is like I still have, like I feel like I have a similar story in that like me hearing jungle and drum and bass since like 2000s in video games, not knowing what it was, and then like in the last few years, I'm just listening to mixes and old mixes, new mixes with old tracks or something like that, and it's like I know this. Where do I know this from? It's like this video game I grew up on. What it would be like. I don't know if it was Tony Hawk games, but I feel it was like around those like early, like N64 kind of games. And it's always in any kind of racing game. It's just drum and bass or just miscellaneous breaks almost at a really fast tempo.
I feel like Moving Shadow was doing a lot with game companies, and then I know a lot of people reference Wipeout or Wipeout XL.
Mm,
It was like a futuristic facing racing game.
yeah, I think so.
I think Photech was like the big name on that game.
Yeah, I think that might be kind of how he transitioned into like doing TV and film and stuff. It's just like being in games like that. Like Hybrid, I think did like the whole one of the Need for Speed games in like the
Hmm.
thousands to 2010, somewhere around there. And that's I think one of like the first two Noisia tunes I heard were on there.
Okay. And they
Yeah.
were a moving shadow, so that's possible that like what block control? I can't
Hey,
remember.
yeah, me neither. Yeah. But it's finding like that connection to like, oh, I do know this, but now there's like a new context for it. And it's like and now that I'm like writing music and stuff, it's just like, oh, I could put that in there. Maybe I could be in a video game one day. It's
You
Yes.
never know.
Yeah, it's so odd to think about, I guess. But I guess not I guess, but still not getting way off topic on my usual way, but like being in that area, like what is it even still considered like the DMV anymore? The, like
Yeah.
DC, Maryland, Virginia,
So
sort of.
where I grew up,
Mhm.
I would call it a super suburb
Okay,
because
yeah.
Washington D.C. was 15 miles south and Baltimore was like 20 miles north. And like FM radio, you'd get you'd had all the different like urban radio stations and mix shows and stuff. And you'd have like the classic hip hop mixes and stuff. And then there'd be an hour where the DC station would have someone playing go-go or it'd be a tape
Mm.
from a go-go show. I'm not sure. Do you know what go-go is?
I feel like I do, but like if I had to answer a
It
test, I couldn't do it right now.
it's 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 Washington D.C.'s like
Sound.
style of music.
Okay,
It's
got it.
yeah, like Chuck Brown is the originator of it, and then he's I don't know the early '70s or whatever, and
Mhm.
it's just got this history to it. It's these big like percussive call and response type
Okay, yeah.
bands, um, EU and Junkyard Band stuff like that. Trouble Funk was like an old go-go band, I think. But so the DC stations would have like an hour of go-go,
Mm.
and the Baltimore stations, like where I lived, you also got the Baltimore stations. And I remember being like 12 years old and hearing Baltimore Club, which would have been like
Yeah.
1989. And my,
All right.
my younger sister and I are just like, this is awesome. I
Mm.
don't know what they're talking about, but like, this is just really cool. Radio on like when we're supposed to be asleep and
Oh yeah. I, you,
jump to like 6 or 7 years later and actually going to raves in
mm.
Baltimore. And sometimes there would be like Baltimore club DJs playing at some of this stuff.
Yeah, there's I feel like that's one thing I've learned is just digging in like the just electronic music and stuff in like the past. I always say like few years, but now every time I think about it, it's like it's been like 10, 11, 12 years at this point for me. And I always hear just that area. And around the time when I really got into it, like things that were coming out of it, like um, DC and around there was like the whole Moonbaton bang.
Yeah, that's
And there was with Dave Nada, Nadastrom, David Heartbreak, everything at U Street, and like seeing like these flyers on the internet. It's like there's so much going on over there, and in St. Louis, there's nothing. So I'm always just
Moon,
like, yeah,
Moonbaton. I was just on the fringes of that, but
mhm,
um, I'm friends with Dave and Matt from Nodastrom. So Dave Nada grew up maybe within 10 miles of me, and he went to University of Maryland when I went there.
wow,
We both had college radio shows at the same time, but back in like the mid to late '90s, he was a hardcore kid, like Discord, like Minor Threat, Fugazi,
okay,
like that
yeah,
type stuff. And he played in a couple bands. I mean, his main band was Donata,
mm,
and then I can't remember someone from like a Discord band he had a project with. And he also used to be in a band called like Medic. He may have been in a band called Bison. It's just funny like remembering all this stuff because like I knew of him when we were in
yeah,
undergrad and we had mutual friends, but I didn't meet him until the early 2000s when he started DJing and like playing Baltimore club and hip
yeah.
hop and stuff. Because my friend Jesse Titsworth,
Okay, that's another
we
guy.
met
Yeah,
Jesse and I met when he was a drum and bass DJ when I got to know him, and like we were involved in throwing parties like in the early 2000s, and he started to branch out, and he was doing a hip hop night called Crunk, just outside of DC, like within a mile of the DC city
mm,
limits, and that's how he met Dave, and then he introduced Dave and Matt Nordstrom, and Matt used to be a drum and bass DJ and we produced together. He used to go by MRN.
okay,
Um, Matt and Dave had very, very similar senses of humor and just for some reason hit it off
mm,
really well. And Nodastrom like came out of that.
Yeah.
Like I heard the Moomatone stuff when it was just DJ edits, like a
Mm.
couple weeks before they even released it. Like
Wow.
I would hang out at Matt's. I'd go to hang out at Matt's condo, when he and Dave would like work on music, and like I went over one weekend and they're like, "Hey, check out this stuff. Like we're gonna release these edits. Like we're gonna call it this." You know, they explain the whole Afrojack
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
It's I don't know. It was funny.
Man, that's like crazy to have like been in the middle of basically something being born. I mean, it's sort of around like influences has like made it to all the way to pop music and stuff at this point, especially with like how like Diplo picked it up and just went nuts with it. Cause I was like around those same years was like when Mad Decent really picked up and he like transitioned from being just like the kind of beat maker having Mad Decent, kind of like the small block parties and stuff here and there,
Yep.
to being like the huge producing for everyone at that point. And this is before like the New Orleans, the the twerking on the wall and stuff that just went crazy. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that at all. It's weird to see like that because I watched him as like the guy with the little what was its song, like Smash a Kangaroo or something like that, was one of his Diplo's tunes, I think. And it was
I
just
can't
like
remember.
he just looked like, you know how all artists are just like staring off into the distance, kind of like got the hoodie on, just like in this warehouse space. And now he's like, I'm Diplo and I wear a suit everywhere I go. Like that one commercial from years ago. So just seeing
Was
like,
it like a
yeah,
black? Was it a BlackBerry commercial?
maybe. I just remember it being on TV. I'm like, man, like how I just like saw this guy on a blog just making like hip hop beat tapes, and now he's. I mean, I guess how that's how things work when you're like that famous.
Yeah. It's like what was the recipe?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's one of the biggest things I just like look for is like people's like journeys, like not I guess the way like their come up, that's like a weird way to put it, or just like get all into like the hustle culture, I guess. But just like, how did you get from there to here? Because I found you on this blog, and you were just like me, nobody. You were doing it like you sounded great, but just like if no one looked for you, they wouldn't have found you. And now here you are. Like, so how can I do that or something? I don't know, just for a little bit, especially like
Were
how.
you
Yeah,
were you ever on the holler board?
nope, I can't. I don't even. Yeah, was that before me or before this?
Yeah, maybe that was like Hollertronics was like Diplo and low
Okay.
budget. It was a forum, and that's where like if you ever found archives of that forum, so many names in there, you'd be like, wait, that person used to chat in here, and like that,
Mm,
and they used to just like trade music on there. I would lurk on it. I probably had like maybe 100 posts in like 4 years.
mm.
But yeah, that was a lot of that. A lot of that music got like swapped around on there.
Okay, and that just reminded me of the thing no one wants to talk about, but dogs on acid. Like I dig on there a lot just to lurk as well because nothing really happens there now outside of complaining about the new kids ruining jungle or something like that. I mean, every now and then there's a good thread, but there's a lot of that. But I would like dig
I
and just see your name like going years back.
Oh, you found my name on there?
Yeah, because I mean, you said you had the same name, like Ransom spelled the same way for so long.
Yep. Yeah. I'm a 2001
Yeah.
DOA with I probably have under 1,000 posts though.
No, I completely get that too because I'm the exact same way. It was another forum too. It was Sample Genie. I was just like
Mm.
digging for like some Lensman videos through the
Oh, you were on
forums.
sample.
I never signed up, but I just like dig through the like some of the forums that were like public, I think, and I was just like digging through and it's like a forum from 2007 and like you were writing down notes from a video or something. I'm like, wow, he's just been everywhere.
The sample genie stuff. Yeah, I joined that in season one. I think they're about to do season eight.
Oh, okay.
Like July will be season eight. Um, I feel so name droppy already.
Just that's
Um,
dude.
so Hybris
Mm,
is my friend Evan. he grew up in the DC area, and he was one of the genies for season 1.
Okay.
And so I think that's how I heard about Sample Genie. It was like, the initial like, there's going to be this new program, and
Yeah.
it's going to be tutorials and samples, and here's our lineup. So Evan did it the first season, and I signed up. And around that time, I was in grad school. So that's the other thing, is I was a terrible student for undergrad.
Me too.
Like I was one of those C's get degrees people.
Man.
It took me 5.5 years to finish a 4-year degree, partly because I changed majors so many times. But give me 10 years of work experience, and I'll realize, oh, I just have to figure out my learning style.
Yeah.
And I was working at university and got free tuition. So I was like, I might as well try to go for another degree. And initially I was going to get an art degree for my second degree. And after 3 classes, which were fun, they were studio classes, I had to take like a philosophy of art class, which was a core class for the university. Like, you have to take X number of core classes before you're a junior,
Right.
in order to graduate.
Yeah.
And the core classes aren't your major. So I sign up for this class. I go for the first class. There's like 80 people in it. No one wants to be there. Like, the instructor was like stereotypical, like, eccentric university professor. And I was like, I am not going to enjoy this class. I am dropping it. And I had to admit to myself that I was going to be late 30s by the time I got this second bachelor's degree. And I wanted to go into graphic design. I was like, I'm going to have to compete with 22-year-olds for entry-level graphic design jobs. I'm not going to be able to, like, I couldn't envision that working for me. So I was like, let's see if I can get you a master's program. And I got into a 3 months later, I started my master's in technology management. And yeah, I lost my train of thought. Like,
no, you're talking about I don't know how I'm used to following myself through those kind of things, so I guess that's why I picked up on it. But you were talking about like your learning styles and stuff like that, and that's exactly what I learned in like grad school, which is like, why did it take me so long to learn it then and not in those years when I definitely would have needed it? Because undergrad was just like, go to class, make sure it gets done all right to pass a lot of the times, unless I was really into it, and then fool around in like FL Studio the rest of the night. Just hermit in the dorm.
Undergrad was a lot of DJing. I had a college radio show. I was buying a lot of records. I did buy some studio equipment as an undergrad, but I wasn't very applied to it.
Yeah.
But the grad school thing, it's the learning style. Like, I learned, because I don't know, I don't know if it's a pressure cooker situation or what, but you have to figure out how you're going to learn the material, like how to get to your resources. And so the thing was, the stuff I was taking, it wasn't in my line of work. And a lot of people I was taking classes with, it was what they did like on the day-to-day for their work.
Yeah.
I had to think of ways to relate to the material. And once I started doing that, and I was like, well, how do I apply these techniques to what I'm interested in? And, that manifested into writing up, time code notes for Sample Genie videos.
Man.
I had asked if it was okay if I'd post those on the forum. And after like 6 to 9 months of it, they reached out to me and they're like, hey, like, we'll make you a moderator on the forum. Like, we'll give you a comp, like, Sample Genie membership. And I had that for a few years. I actually just lost it maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, the reality is I haven't put, like, I actually got involved in coming up with production challenges for them as well. And it was eventually it was me and this guy Shrike, who,
yeah, I know him.
He's just had some stuff come out. We haven't talked in a bit, but he got comped for a little while, but he got dropped a few months ago, like for the free access. And then I just got dropped. Like, I didn't even tell me. I went to download like the month's samples just to, like, I have like 5 months of samples I haven't even gone through. I just download them and put them in like a folder to sort. But I didn't get April or May's samples, so I'm just kind of like, eh. But there's so much information there, and sometimes I feel like I was getting information overload.
Yeah.
Just like all these tutorials. Actually, I've been trying not to watch tutorials lately, and just trying to, the phrase of the moment on the server is
I was,
crack
I
on.
was waiting for you to say that. Yeah,
Plug.
man, it's I know there's like so much to just unpack right there because it's like a lot of that is just like the education part is just like what my last 2 years was in grad school, just like the learning how to learn, and then the learning how to learn something you don't really want to deal with, like talk like you the relating it to yourself, like how is this useful, because at least that'll give me more energy to pursue whatever this class is or whatever this thing I'm doing. And I feel like that's something that's just like kicked into me, and it's like what's made like all these kind of things happen is just like I don't know. I just feel like I wish I would have been interested or at least known how to get myself interested in the things or in learning and all that stuff earlier. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I know like that's how I try and like approach like the videos and stuff. I say I try to do, but I feel like I do them enough at this point towards like,
Mhm.
yeah, let's pick a topic. All right, now why am I writing this out like a lesson plan?
Yeah, picking a topic and like bringing it up. That's a lot of what I'm kind of doing now.
Hmm.
Um, just picking something and like exploring it.
Yeah.
And you know, I won't. I don't need to go into age stuff. I mean, because like I'm talking about going to raves in the mid '90s,
Hmm.
and here I am, like family full time job, and I'm producing as much as I can. And I'm gonna be producing for who knows how long. Like
Yeah.
my kids they're gonna be like in high school and college and like rolling their eyes and be like, "Dad's in the basement, like
Yeah.
distorting 808s again," because there's so many questions that are coming up,
Hmm.
and it's like I'm not gonna rush to figure it out because I'm gonna answer those questions and it's gonna be new questions.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm interested in like having fun with it, like just roll with it.
That's
It's
yeah.
it's
It's
super
perfect.
fun.
Yeah, it is. Like
I don't want to learn how to golf. I want to learn how to like process drums.
yeah, that's two things right there. Just like, because golf is supposed to be the relaxing thing, and it's like, what did I used to do to relax? It's like, I try and just go outside for a bit, and it's like, I have this really good idea for a project. I should just go back and sit in my room. It's like, no, you've been in there for too long, but it's fun and you're learning stuff. It's like, yeah, but maybe at this point, you learned enough for today. Just like go out. So that's been a fight lately.
Yeah. You kind of have to let yourself get out too, though. Like you
Mm,
need that recharge time
yeah.
because sometimes you're just like hitting a wall. Like even though you want to say like I've got this stuff done, but you're doing it at like such a degraded level because you're just tapped out, but you
Mm,
don't want to say I'm tapped out.
yeah.
You got
Man.
to get out and like do something. You got to experience things because then once you get out and experience things, then the excitement like you fill the tank up and you're just like, all right, like let's
Yeah. Yeah. I think
let's make
that's
it happen.
I think that's why people, especially like just in the last year with, I mean, on top of everything going on, but just like finding that way to get out and experience things, but in a safe way. Even like the stay at home like vacations kind of things that are like even more. It's like I live here, but I'm just gonna stay in this hotel for a weekend because it's a different experience. It's like I'm a tourist and my house is over there.
Someone someone else is gonna make the bed for you.
Yeah, but it's enough to just take your mind off of the thing that you know you're going to work at, even if it's just like a full time job or something like this, where it's just like an obsessive, at points, hobby. Just having that
Yeah,
like
like
release.
I'll start pulling out all the notebooks and start
Yeah.
filling up stuff with like, oh, I've got ideas and like, start throwing all the post-it note pads that are up that like start to get filled up with stuff
Mm.
because who knows when you're gonna think of something.
Man, I forgot. Have you? Yeah, that's another thing. Have you always been like a big note taker? Just because like, I feel like you've
Mm,
showed like a bunch of notebooks, at least in like the 2 or 3 years like we've been talking. Just like I wrote that down.
That's the notebook thing is definitely like since grad school. I mean, I did have some notes. Like I have some friends that knew me in undergrad that like will laugh because there was a time where like I would write like a big sheet of paper. It's like go to class, like you cannot fail your classes or everyone will laugh at you. And
Mhm.
someone would come like see me in my dorm room and they'd be like, "What's that?
It's
Who's gonna
motivation.
laugh at you?"
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, just like that the thinking of something and like getting it down,
Mm.
that's more in the last few years. And
Yeah.
that's the other. It's like the whole learning style again. Like that's not going to work for everyone. It's
Mm.
just one of the tools that seems to work for me.
I try my best to keep like notes and I mean, you know the whole whiteboard situation. It's just like I was on it for a month and now it has the same thing I wrote on it that month, just like over here on the wall.
I got mine mounted now, and I have not changed. I haven't updated it. Other than one of the collabs, I was actually two of the collabs I was able to scratch out
Mm.
because they're done.
Nice.
So, but there's that's the other thing is there's like I'm working on this batch of demos because I can completely relate to like Hey Mac, like, Circle of Harry's,
Yeah.
bring him into the conversation. Like, he's working on his batch. He's trying to get stuff out. I've worked on stuff. I've only sent out like 2 tracks
Mm.
for label consideration this year so far. They didn't make it. So now I got to figure out this the two that you've been playing.
Okay. Yeah.
So now
Which
I
are
got to
great,
figure out
by the way.
this.
Yeah.
I got to figure out like, okay, how many demos should I have ready to go and like where do they go? Because I had a third demo that I had thought about for the
Hmm.
one label compilation because it wasn't a drum and bass label. It was like a
Yeah. Right.
more of a bass music thing, but they did pick up like 2 or 3 drum and bass tracks, which are by like amazing artists that people are going to hear more of in the
Mm.
next few months. Um, one of the tracks I didn't send because you can only send 2, and so I sent it to Sam Binga for the SWU
Yeah.
FM show a couple weeks ago, and then it became like demo of the month.
Yeah. It was,
And
man, that's,
it's just kind of like, wait, I'm here. Like the next day, like I see the show, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna like skip through it real quick, and oh my god, yeah, those are the piano sounds in the respace that I made, and they really played. And I'm like shaky about it.
mm.
And then I had to go to work for like 9 hours. But it's funny as I got to have my daughter's 5,
Mm.
and I played it out loud, and she was like, "That's our name," because Sam made a very good attempt at pronouncing my last name, and he got it, and then he like backed up and said it a different way. But my daughter was like, "He said our name."
Yeah.
She's like, "You're famous."
No, man, that remind on what the last episode of Jack Workforce's podcast when he starts reading out the patron names and he was like,
Yeah.
Harry, I don't know how to say this. I'm sorry. I was like,
That,
because I'm just gonna. It's Schrecengost, right? I've said it
it's
enough
yeah,
times.
Schrecengost, yeah,
Yeah,
like Shrek, like the movie.
yeah.
But it's why so many people called me Harry Ransom, which it turns out there already is a Harry Ransom.
Really? I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like.
yeah. So people started going to South by Southwest, like people I knew,
Mm.
and I'd start getting these pictures like, "Hey, you have a building named after you." So apparently there's a Harry Ransom who was like a professor at the University of Texas, Austin,
Mm.
that was like a philanthropist as well,
Oh,
and
okay.
he's got buildings named after him. And I'm like, great. Like, even when I try to change my DJ name from Ransom spelled, ransom in the dictionary to Harry Ransom, Years later, it's like, oh, there's a Harry Ransom. Like, I'm gonna have to change my name again. I'm just gonna use my AOL screen name.
Man, I've been getting Dunkin' Donuts since I was in kindergarten, so I feel like that's relatable a little bit.
First name Harry though, like that just opens you up
Hmm.
to. Part of it's how people pronounce the name,
Okay.
but if you're like Harry, it's
Yeah.
like, yes, I've heard it all before. Like, please, like, go through your list of.
Right. All the Harry. This makes me think. All right, so is it Harry, or is Harry like for Harold?
Nope, I'm a Harry.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a I'm a fourth.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. The there's my great grandfather was Harry Senior, and he was alive until I was 7. So there's pictures of all four of us together.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Um,
So my son,
yeah, that's
his
gonna be
name's
my
Leo.
okay. That's what's gonna be my next question. I was like, should I
Everyone's
ask
like,
this or not? It's like, all right, here we go.
are you gonna name him Harry the Fifth? Like my sister's like elbowing me. She's like, remember when I was 6 and I used to say you're gonna have a kid and you're gonna name him Harry the Fifth? I was like, I didn't.
Yes, man.
His name's not Harry.
I know. I'm, yeah. I'm pretty far off from having kids. Like I've had like that thought. Like, so I know it's gonna. All right, want it to happen in some. I guess you can't say you know it's gonna happen, but I'm like, would I want a Duncan Jr.? It's like I don't know, because even hearing like my name is like a teacher, like Mr. Winslow, that's weird. So I don't want to hear my name's like, oh, little Duncan, or it's Duncan Jr. or Junior. It's like what?
I hope this doesn't sound weird, but like Mr. Winslow makes me think of that Arrested Development song.
I think
It's
you
like an
told
old
me
hip
this
hop song.
before, and
Has someone done that? Like gone like
I don't know.
can't remember it was like one of their big radio hits. I'm old.
I always get
But
the Carl Winslow from Family Matters. That's one. There's Winslow the mouse from the old cartoon Cat Dog. There's have you seen the
well,
movie Lighthouse? The Lighthouse?
no, I don't like horror movies.
It's kind of horror but no, there's a one guy in there. His last name is Winslow. I'm like, and there's like this sample, this bit that you can sample because he's like, God, he's like, damn it, Winslow. It's like I can put that in the tune, but then so it's like saved in like a folder with everything else.
Um the first name your first name Duncan,
Yeah.
it's the same you have the same first name as DJ Trace. And so a lot of people used to call him Dubplate Duncan.
Wow. I don't think I have enough like secret tunes to be called that name yet, but yeah, I mean, just getting used to being called Winslow is a thing. And then like people are like Wins. I'm like, where is this coming from?
Um, oh, my nickname in high school was Shrek, and that was before the movies.
Wow.
Yeah, I played baseball for a couple years, and our baseball jerseys had our last
Okay,
names.
that
And
makes sense
because
now.
my last name's so long, like it started here and wrapped all the way around the other into the other shoulder, and people just called me Shrek. And then my sister's 3 years younger, and when I was a senior, she was a freshman. She's the more athletic of the two of us,
Hmm.
and she made varsity for basketball and softball freshman year, like starting player. And so I had all these girls that I was friends with that were like, were playing with my sister, and they were like, "Oh, it's Little Shrek."
Man, did it make
Also, the Arrested Development single, it was Mr. Wendell.
Mr. Okay, I'm just gonna like make
It's
a
from
note of that. But
it's from '92.
did so when Shrek came out, did you like get anything? Did that connection like make it, or was it just
No,
like too late at that point?
it was too late because like, oh, it's funny is a lot of people think I'm younger than I am, and I'll have people be like, "Oh, like it's before your time," and someone like I dropped my daughter off at preschool a few weeks ago, and a teacher that I haven't really talked with like answered the door, and like
Hmm.
my daughter's got like really really curly hair. She's like, "Oh, I love you! Like your Kay's hair is like amazing." It reminds me of, and she was like Susie Q, or she named something. She goes, "It was a movie from when I was a little girl." It's like it's I don't know how old you think I am. So I look it up, and it came out when I was like in high school. I was like,
Wow.
oh, it was like, a kid girls movie. Like, of
Mm,
course I didn't know what it was because it wasn't Jurassic Park or whatever big action movie
yeah.
was, when I was in high school.
And even sort of get that now. And I don't know why. Like I'm 27, but it'll be somebody that's like 30, 31, 32 is like, "Oh, you're so young." I'm like, "You're not that far away from me, but you don't remember this thing." I was like, "We experienced this at the same time. What do you mean?" Yeah, it's something.
It was
Yeah.
it wasn't a defining experience for us though.
Yeah, yeah. That brings us to one thing that I wanted to ask you about. Is like just kind of like the balancing out everything. So like you work at the university, family man, and you're trying to write drum and bass, or you are not trying, writing drum and bass, doing all these other things. Like the balance, like how is that working? I guess for you.
Uh, right now it's working out because I've moved away from like my support network. Like I don't have like my close friends nearby to
Mm.
hang out with, but also pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, so it's my immediate family, my wife's family, so like extended family. Um, it's I'm not going out to parties and
Mm.
bars and whatnot. So it's like, all right, Friday, everyone's asleep, 9 o'clock. I got notes on what to work on. Just get to it. I will say in the past like few months, I've gotten actually I'd say in the past year because 2019 I didn't get to work on much. That was like a big break
Yeah.
with leaving Maryland and moving up to Boston. New job, finding out we were having a second kid, like sold our house down there, living with in-laws, not having like space. Eventually I had a little bit of space. Like I had like my mother-in-law gave me her desk that she usually paints at.
Mm.
She was like, "You can set up here." So I had one monitor, my headphone amp, and like a little 25 note keyboard, like a
Mm.
little Korg Nano. I was like, "All right, this will get me by for a couple months. Like I'll do something just to kind of not lose the muscle memory, I guess."
Yeah. Yeah.
But then last February we moved into our own house. Like we bought a house, moved in. I almost lost a bunch of records because of
Ooh.
flooding.
Oh yeah.
Um, but we got the basement fixed up. Like we've got this thing called a French drain installed. Bought some new. I sold a lot of equipment when we moved from Maryland, but I bought new monitors, new sound card, and was like, okay, I'm gonna set up a space for me. I'm gonna do the best that I can with what I have to
Mm.
make it fun to hang out in, like to make me feel engaged. And yeah, just
Nice.
I don't know, work,
Yeah.
work, like work and work fast. Like I'm not gonna get hung up on trying to make serum snares, and
Oh yeah.
I just I'll have these stretches where I'll just do sketches. Like I have 60 minutes today. I'm just gonna start with a blank template or whatever, like blank DAW,
Mm.
and just see what happens. Or if I'm having like a sample session, like I was editing samples, that was my goal for the hour, and suddenly you hear something, you're like, wait, what happens if I do this around this? And an hour later, okay, here's another sketch for the sketch pile. Like I have a folder of probably 100 sketches. Some
Wow.
of them are 8 bars, some of them are 64 bars, but that becomes like the starter for other ideas.
Yeah.
And this year I've gotten more into okay, well, other thing is sometimes I would just use the same break in all of them. Like it's a DLR break. Like I
Mm.
love the lab samples
Oh yeah.
stuff. Like you know, it, I don't know. I find there's stuff that I like how it sounds. And so there's this one break that I made like my version of it. Like I took out some stuff that with some of the DLR stuff, there's sometimes going to be like a percussive element. You're like, oh, there, you know, like Skullgrim posted something the other day. I was like, I have that Octane and DLR sample pack too.
Yeah.
But you know, you take out the you know the process like clap in it or whatever, and you just make a version with like the basics of a drum break, and then that becomes my sketch break. And so I'll just throw that in, and I'll just start building other stuff around it. And then once I have like a song idea, you know, when I come back to it, that's when I start taking out things and like putting in more like finessed drums or whatnot. So that's something that I've been experimenting with, and I'm finding that I'm getting a lot more ideas down.
No, that's something I've been like thinking of too as well, just like doing sketches, because a lot of times I'll just try to do it all right now. Just I have an hour, just write the whole thing, and I can't. I start off with the best intentions, and then sometimes I'll get an hour in, like, all right, this is a good sketch. I can leave this for later, and then sometimes like 2 hours, but it's been the same loop for 45 minutes of that or more, and yeah, it's that. But one thing I want to, I guess, kind of, I keep saying kinda. That's the thing I need to work on. So one thing I wanted to ask was, how does everyone else, I guess, around you like feel about what you're doing? Like, I mean, like the music, drum and bass, like I know like we talked one time in like just one of the Discord chats, and your daughter like showed up, she's like, oh, this is daddy's music. It's kind of weird.
Dad,
Like how?
dad music.
Yeah.
No dad music. No dad music. Like, you know, she's she when she was 3, there was definitely like this no dad music.
Yeah.
No dad music. Hamilton. It's like,
Oh man.
you know, the 85th time I've had to listen to this soundtrack. Like, I don't want to see the play. And you know, but then, you know, sometimes she's like, dad music? Can you,
Wow.
and now she's starting to act like, now she's like, wait, my dad makes stuff, and making stuff's kind of fun. Another thing I do, not music, but like I will buy like a package of blank cards, like A1 or A4 size cards, like, and make my own birthday cards and whatnot,
Nice.
or like thank you cards. And that's become something like you come up with an idea and you make a card, and then like I'll send you a link to the donut card I made a couple years ago, because like the whole BSA donut, I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm with the right people. But yeah, you know, just I'm trying to think of like a good way to frame this. DJ Rashad, from Tech Life, he
Yeah.
passed away about 7 years ago or so. I really liked footwork and like juke. Like it just, I found it very hypnotic, like the way the bass worked with the drums and stuff. And I really enjoyed listening to it. And I played it out a few times. Like I wasn't booked as like, you know, a footwork DJ, but you know, I'd play like a good half hour of it. And I really liked, you know, reading. I like interviews. I like listening to interviews. I like reading interviews. I find it interesting to try to get a sense of what like people are about. And DJ Rashad, I forget where the interview was with. Like it could have been Resonate Advisor or something, but there's a quote where he just says, you know, he and his friends got to a point that like, whoa, we can make our own shit. And it's just like, that's
Yeah.
yes, like that's
everything.
perfect. Like you just make your own stuff. Like it's not going to be, you know, super polished initially. Like you're going to make like a lot of garbage, but it's your garbage. Like it's, you know, and sometimes there's like like you might listen to something you made like 10 years ago.
Yes.
You're like, this sounds terrible, but wait,
That little bit right there.
that there, let's explore that. Like let's go for it.
Man, that's perfect. It might be garbage, but it's your garbage. Like I'm sure I've said that in various different ways, just like lately. Man,
This is mine.
yeah, it's
But
something.
yeah, my daughter, she likes to draw, and she likes to make drawings for people, and I maybe that's my influence of like trying to make stuff, and I think that she's like, so my she knows that I used to DJ. Like I haven't DJed in a long time. Like I played one DJ set a month before I moved from DC because like my friends found out I was leaving and I got offered a residency.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, you guys are jerks because I'm leaving in 2 months. Like, where was this a year ago? But so I played like a farewell show, but that was like the first time I had DJ'd in 3 years. But my daughter, like, she sees the records. She remembers me playing records,
Hmm.
but not necessarily DJing. And her birthday was in February, but we couldn't do anything because of
Yeah.
quarantine stuff. So we kept saying like, hopefully by the summer things will be better. Like, we'll have a half birthday for you. And she is in full on party plan mode. And she's like, Dad, we're having a dance party. You're DJing.
There we go.
You have to DJ. And in my head, I'm like, she wants me to DJ. I can't play drum and bass, but what if I make edits of like, her 10 favorite kid songs?
Mhm.
Like, what if you had like DJ versions of like Yo Gabba Gabba tunes and like
That would work. Like really,
Yeah.
probably really well.
Yeah, so here's a chance to be like, my dad's all right, probably
Yeah,
take
no,
like
that
a
would
couple
be
hours to.
that would be like an interesting project to just get like stuck in because there's so many of those on like Spotify to where it's just like the nursery rhymes, but it's like popular songs, and it's just kind of like a toy piano playing it along.
Mhm.
And man, yeah, you could do that. That could be next thing.
Yeah. Well, I did a sample pack when Leo was born back in September of 2019 on Sample Genie, like on their forum when we were doing the production challenges.
Hmm.
I did a sample pack that was comprised entirely of kid related things. I'm pretty sure I shared it on the Discord like when I first joined it.
Probably,
But
it's probably in the folder. Yeah, that's
it it's got field recordings of like her toy, like my daughter's toys.
hmm.
Some of it like when the battery was starting to die, and it was like that sounds weird, and I like that.
It's,
So I'd
ooh,
record,
yeah.
I'd record stuff like that. She's got this like one little. It's not a piano, but it's got like 8 keys.
Hmm.
I swear it's gonna make like an amazing rave stab. I just have to like record the sound for it. But I made this sample pack. It's got like kid toy recordings. It's got stuff from like water. Like we went to a water park one time. One of my favorite like white noise samples to use is the kids like running through these like jets of water shooting up. It just has this sizzle, but like a little bit of extra character in it. And it's like, that's mine. And I can put it in stuff. And it's like, it's a little piece of me
Mhm.
in what I'm working on. And then we would get a lot of CDs from the library just for like the car. Our car has a CD player. And so I snagged like a CD-ROM from work. I do IT stuff. And I just, whenever we'd get a CD, I started ripping them. And then when I had time where I wasn't feeling creative in the studio, I'd have these sample edit sessions. And I have tons of samples from kid CDs. And some of it's like pretty fire.
Man, that's I know I have the same thing. I'm pretty sure I have like a music like workbook, like instrumental. So you're supposed to like practice against it, like CD, and it's still in my computer from like the last 2 years, just like in the CD drive that I never use. And I kept it in there because it had one really good drum break on it. It was just like a how to like learn jazz kind of book, like method book, and had a really good drum break. And I just left. It's still in there, like now.
It's like, get it.
Yeah.
Get it. And
Yeah.
then the other thing, get it, and then see if you can find out who the drummer was, and
Yeah.
see if there's like anything else where there might be recordings of them.
It's just like, because it's just basically like jazz break beats that you're supposed to like improvise over, but they're really clean. And I could just like make something out of it.
Why, like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a question, like, all right, can I make something of this? Like, there's a sketch.
I think that's gonna be my next thing, just to like to my next take up my time project. Just like post it over the weekend or something.
Um, tying back to your name
Mm.
and also projects, I'm still disappointed that we haven't done the Michael Winslow production challenge. He was the guy that did all the
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
effect, like mouth sound
right.
effects, like in Academy.
That's another one I get all the time. I'm just like, yeah, I'm related to him. Are you? Like, no, not at all. But have you ever talked about that? I don't,
Yeah, I posted it. I posted it on the Discord like
or did I
a
just miss
year
that?
ago.
Okay, we're gonna have to
But that's
like
the
do
thing.
that. Yeah,
We haven't done production challenges on your Discord. I don't
that's
think.
no. We
Or
just did like the one collab thing that took like months, and
oh,
then
the one that's still active right
yeah,
now.
it's done. But they're like trying to make a real tune out of it. And it's like it's supposed to be for fun. Stop like getting all minute about it. You know, because they didn't even put my part in there, and I'm just like, my ego's bruised for right now, but it's cool. It was a fun project to do, but we should
I don't
definitely
know if
start it.
I did. I've actually reused some of the sounds that I made, like because I think I did pads. I did
I
pads or like drones or
mm,
something.
they gave me saxophones. Like I don't have a saxophone. Just did it in contact. It's like sure, here you go.
I remember I took perspectives drums and I did like.
That guy.
Have I talked about my gauntlet of drum programming?
I think so. Maybe.
I basically I started creating. I have this like catalog of drum patterns that I created for myself. Like there's your standard like two step that boom boom.
Yeah.
And Strange has done a video recently where he did like a couple of them.
Mm.
And what's funny is like one of the drum patterns. He's like, I call this my universal project drum pattern. And I'm like, that's beat number 6 in my like nomenclature. But beat number 6
Yeah.
is also the up like universal project style drum beat. But I've got about 200 different types of
Wow.
patterns. And then I broke it up into like the categories are based on the snares. And
Okay.
so category A, the snares are like on the point 0.2 and the point 0.4. So that's like the most common
Mm.
snare programming like in drum and bass. But then the kicks are like all over the place.
Sounds like
But then
me.
I have these other. I'll send you the MIDI files. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna make sense. That's the thing is
Mm.
a part of production for me is like creating my own tools.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I get that. I get that.
And so with this drum programming thing, I'll take a drum, like I took Perspectives drums, and I'm like, okay, this it ends up being like, let's say arbitrarily beat 78. All right, beat 78 is like a category A. So now I'm gonna make 10 other category A style beats that could act as like fills or whatever. And and it
Mm.
because I did all this work like years ago, now when I go, okay, I need like 10 variations, like 10 minutes later I have the 10 variations. Um
That sounds like ridiculously useful. Like, but
but
then
it's
I
not
get it that you say it doesn't make sense or it might not make sense outside of
yeah.
you.
And but the thing is like it kind of helped me like learn drum programming a little
Mm.
bit better. But now I just I have like the MIDI clips or I just make an audio version of it and just bank it.
Yeah.
And it's beat 86.
Man.
But
That
one of the tracks you play is one of the rarest beat patterns in the thing because it's not common. Like the
It's
the
so
the
weird, but so good. Yeah,
DPM.
yeah, the boom,
The,
pa, boom, boom, pa, boom, that one, something
yes,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The DPM is acronym for disruptive pattern material,
Mm-hmm.
which is another term for camouflage.
You're okay.
And
Yeah, I get that.
there's like this crazy art design book about DPM and like in the fashion world. But disruptive pattern material is also in my head like that beat pattern. It's disruptive. It's not typical.
It
So like it
it's so fun to
and
mix.
it's I might I might just self-release it. Like I might just like, get it mastered and get DPM artwork, like
Nice. Yeah.
put
That's
it
always a
out.
thing. I guess that, man, that's like, you did it. The perfect segue to, just so we don't go for like too long, unless you want to go like a lot longer. But I was gonna, yeah, so you have that track. May or may not be coming. Anything else you're working on? Specifically like for
You
the nearish future?
you've got Cyrus
Mm,
as well. I don't know if I sent you PBR, which is the
no.
one that they played on SWU FM. So PBR, if you listen to that set, like Sam Bingo's like, Pabst Blue Ribbon, it's cheap, hipster beer. I was like, yes, it is cheap hipster beer. It's also partly why I named it PBR,
Mm,
but it actually stands for Piano Breaks Reese.
okay. Yeah.
But I was like PBR, like, it's funny. Um, so that one, I was going to say that one's done, but now, I got that feedback. There's maybe a little bit I should probably do to it. Um, I do one on like you have some people that you kind of like mentor or work with one on one.
Mm,
I did courses with Heist back in
yeah.
2017, 2018, and I probably did about 4 or 5 with him, and learned a lot about like drums and what like it goes back to the learning style. Like sometimes you need
Yeah. Yeah.
someone to guide you a bit. And so I learned a lot with him. And then I had the big move and wasn't producing. I knew that Phil Filth was doing one-on-one stuff, and he's an educator by trade.
Yeah.
We have some mutual friends, and he did like a Christmas sale where it's like, I don't know, 50 pounds off the normal price for 2 sessions or whatever. So I took advantage of that, and I've been now. I don't even know how many sessions I've done with Filth, but like we're at a point now where it's just like we have these 3-hour calls where we'll just kind of like catch up and talk about
Mm,
music stuff. And actually, the last one we talked a lot about NBA, even though I haven't followed the NBA in a while. He's big into the NBA.
wow.
Like who
Did
knew?
not know that. Yeah.
Um, but we've been doing a lot of like just deep critiques of demos that I have. And so I mean, so this is one sheet of notes. This is like
Man.
5 tracks. And then there's another sheet that's like another 5 tracks. And then I don't that's the thing is I don't send stuff that often. Um I don't want to overload people, but like I could send you or like anyone that's kind of like close 10 tracks to check out to like, get feedback or like, yeah, I think this is ready to like, send as a demo. But I'm trying to figure out where do I send these demos to, like what labels. I in my case, I kind of want to get in with a label that is going to be supportive and I can kind of build with.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can't do I'm not going to do the merit badge thing.
Mm,
Like I definitely have a few labels that are like the dream labels, and then there's some labels that are like those might be a good fit, but I don't know. Well, maybe next year like we'll have some answers to that. I do have a couple things coming out, but like it's just like a track here and a track there. It's not
mm.
a cohesive collection of ransom tracks.
I know the feeling so well.
But
Yeah.
maybe nothing comes out. Like who knows? But like I said earlier, like there's these questions that I feel like I got to answer, and but I've made more connections with people in the past year,
Mm,
and it's like people want to hear what I'm working on. Like I'm checking out what other people work on, and people just check in and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like even like I have a friend that does 2-step, and he was like, "Do you have some sounds you could send me?" And then like he's got stuff that's getting played on radio like over in the UK, and
mm.
he's like, "These 5 tracks like have sounds you gave me." It's like awesome.
Wow. And I think it's a good point. A good stopping point. I think. But I mean, we have a part 2. How about that? Just like schedule a part 2. at some point.
Let's do a part 2. Let's do a part 2 after I send out demos.
Yeah, and see how that goes. Maybe we'll get Harry number 2 to show up and just like grill him.
We'll have a council of Harrys.
Yeah, but
we could do good Harry, bad Harry with you. just have 2 screens, like one's Haymack and one's me.
Yeah, just ask all these unpopular opinions, like, what do you guys think? It's like, well, I have to.